The Skyline has a big problem that I need to address immediately, and it's this and this. I'm not gonna lie, I've kind of been enjoying not having to be cautious about dips and speed bumps and driveways and just driving over everything. But the look of the car is finally getting to me. I'm tired of it being so raised. So it's finally time to slam this thing on its nuts. But before we do that, we gotta make sure that we protect the kit by not letting it drag on the floor, and we're gonna do that by installing cups. When the Mark II burned down, I managed to scavenge some stuff like the compressor and the tank and some of the cups. Actually only the cups in the rear because the fronts were toasted and the seal was kind of like done because it was burnt. And the rear springs and helper springs, I was able to take those off. That's what some of these are. And then those are the helper springs, the blue ones. And the front springs, they got a little toasty, but I don't doubt that they're not usable. So I mean, yeah, they're gonna look a little ugly, but I don't care. They still work. Unfortunately, the Mark II doesn't share the same size shaft diameter as the Skyline because Skyline has S13 coilovers and they're a little bit smaller. So I had to order 4 new cups, and that's what's in that box. So the spring rates that I was going to run on the Mark II and am now going to run on the Skyline was going to be 20,000 in the front and then 18 in the rear. And now that I think about it, this actually isn't as stiff as I would have liked to. I asked around and this is kind of what people were suggesting, but I don't know if that is going to work for this car once it's all the way on the ground. If these are too soft and while driving the car compresses and goes down and the kit hits the floor, then I'll take the L and I'll order new ones and get it stiffer later down the road. And I believe these are the same ID inside diameter as the S13 springs and coilovers, so these should go on no problem. So this video isn't going to be a how-to, more so a how I'm going to go about installing it into this car, because every car is different. Every car is going to have different trunk space or interior space where you're going to mount it and set up the controls. So this is more going to be like how I'm going to do it into this car. I'm going to work on the wiring side of things first, because for me that's like the most time consuming thing. I got to rip out panels and route wiring and install the valves and all that stuff. So let's do that first. Also, if you want to know how to install cups from start to finish, I do have a video on how to do that. I'll put in the description, and that goes through everything. The parts that come with the kit and how it kind of works and how they go onto the coilover themselves. And the hardest part for me, I think, is figuring out where you're going to mount your tank, your compressor, and your valves. And once you figure that out, you got to get a little creative and figure out where you're going to mount it. And once you get that out of the way, putting them onto the coilovers, it's all super simple. I use one of these buttons or closed off buttons that isn't being used and drill the hole for the switch. And the switch falls into here like this. The switch is tightened up and I've put the cluster pieces back on. So now let's put this back onto the cluster. And that's that. Then I gotta connect these wires to the back of the switch, and then I'll route the rest of the wiring underneath here and down the kick panel and make my way down to the sides right here. The wire is tucked in and put underneath the carpet. I still have this much left to do, but once I get past this area, putting it behind the seats is pretty easy. It's now routed to the back, but I'm gonna leave this alone for now so I can figure out how I'm gonna mount the compressor and the tank to the trunk using this sheet of ABS. I decided to put the tank and the compressor on the left side of the trunk versus on the right, because the right side has this piece that sticks out a lot. I'm guessing that's for the gas tank or the nozzle for the gas tank, and plus the fuel pump assembly would be right here, and I will be covering it. And there's nothing over here besides this little compartment, which I can still get access to, but I need to push this as far back as I can because I still need to be able to get access to these tail light bulbs if I need to later in the future. If these legs were to line up with these humps, I probably would have been able to just put a riv nut right there and right there on all 4 corners and just bolted it like that. But it only lines up with the one in the back and not so much with the one in the front. So what I'm going to do is bolt this ABS and put the riv nuts here, but bolt this down first and then bolt this onto the ABS. So I've gone ahead and put the riv nuts for the tank and the compressor. For the compressor, I have one here and one over here and one in the back. And I skipped this one because 3 of them is it's good enough. Like, this thing does not move. And for the tank itself, there is 1, 2, and then 3. I mean, yeah, it's not 4 of them that are being held down, but 3 of them that are holding it onto the car, and then 1, 2, and then 3, 4. I do have 4 that are on the ABS. I did have to cut out this cardboard for the spare wheel a little bit. This little indent is for the compressor, and then this still rides on where it needs to go on for support. And this is what I mean. Instead of it just floating in the dead space that's right here, it's still sitting like on the lip. And right here we have just enough space for the compressor. I also made these slits in the carpet, and I know they look silly right now, but let me tuck them in and show you how it looks like once it's fully set in. Not too bad, right? It looks pretty clean. The only thing that I did that I didn't like that I had to do was this right here. I ended up making this slit and covering these wires, and if I make it flush, these wires are gonna pop out and show, and I would rather have them be hidden. I didn't film any of it, but I actually went ahead and installed the rear cups, but I got them kind of like where I want the right, well, not really. Let me show you the right height that it's at now. So this is how the rear quarter sits right now, right above the tire, and I could barely get a thin piece of plastic in there. And the other side is pretty much the same, except it's a little worse. I have to raise it up maybe a hair because it does rub even when I just push the car back and forth. So the quarters are pretty much maxed out on how low it can go because it's pretty much sitting on the tire, but we still have another problem. This is still too high. For reference, this is the back of my chancla, and it could still fit in there. That's not acceptable. I've got a couple options. One, I can run a smaller tire, but I probably won't be doing that because this is a by 10 and it's already on a 225 tire, and going down to a 215 is really pushing it. Putting more camber is probably a no also because number one, I got stock arms, and also it's already got negative camber, and when I go to drift this thing, I like to have 0 camber in the rear because I want to make full use of my tire. But what I'll probably end up doing is putting on a different pair of wheels in the back, ones that will kind of fit better. I have a stash of wheels to choose from, but they all kind of have big lips on them, so I don't know if they'll be any better. Or I can just cut up the quarters and go wide body. One like and I'll go wide body. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to cut it up yet. But for future reference, if there are any R32 sedan guys who know of a brand that makes overs for the sedans, coupes all day. I find a bunch of them for the coupes, but sedans, let me know because all I could find is Modelo Drive, and I've heard mixed reviews about Modelo Drive. We're getting off topic. Let's go ahead and work on the fronts now. I took a peek underneath the fender and saw that the wiring harness is kind of in the way. I mean, it's raised up, but not to my liking. So I gotta unbolt the fender, push this back, and hopefully that gives me enough access to pull up the harness and zip tie it out of the way. So there was a lot more work that needed to be done. I ended up cutting this right here so I can route the harness up here. I drilled some holes right here just enough so I can get one zip tie right here, and we're out of the way now. So let's get the fender back in. Oh yeah, and I put the cup on already. I'm very thankful that this car has F13 suspension because these are coilovers that I'm familiar with, and I had these things off, disassembled, reassembled, and mounted on in like 4 to 5 minutes. I've got the cups on both sides installed now, but I haven't set the right height, but man, look at this. Ooh, that's much better. But it is hitting right here, so I gotta raise it up a little bit, and the other side is just as low. It's like 1 finger gap underneath the skirt, but the fender is sitting on top of the tire, so I gotta raise it up for now. Later, when I get a chance to play with alignment, I'll be able to pull this inward and get some more negative camber, so this will clear. Like I mentioned, all 4 corners do have cups on already, and all that's left to do is route the wiring for the battery to power up the compressor and run the air hose to each cup and route it underneath the dash to the side, and then do the ones in the back. I was able to use the same mounting setup that I had for the Mark II. This thing went under here, pretty much in the exact same location, or I forget if it was here or on the right side. This middle hose comes from the tank and feeds both valves. One of them is going to be going to the front cups, and then the other one's going to be going to the rear. And my relay is mounted up here out of the way. It just needs the power cable that I need to run through the car. After that, the cup should be operational, but I still need to set the right height, and I don't think you guys need to see me lowering and raising each corner. So I'm gonna just fast forward to when this install is finished and the car is on the street driving. All right, my dudes, we are finished with the install, driving on the streets, and let me go over how the install went. Actually, before I talk about that, let's see the cups operating in action. The install of the cup kit went well. The only thing that I noticed is that since this is a sedan and it does use up almost the whole roll of airline, once your tank gets depleted, the compressor takes a lot longer to fill up the tank. So it takes maybe like a minute and 30 seconds to fill up versus a smaller car like my S13. That thing only takes maybe like 40 seconds to fill up, but you get 2 lifts out of it until the compressor turns on. Even though the front is a lot lower than it was before, I'm still not happy with it because there is some room to go lower, but I can't right now because I have stock tension rods and I need adjustable ones so I can pull the wheel forward, because if you can see, the wheel is more towards the fender than it is towards the bumper. So I got to pull it forward because right now it hits this part of the bumper and the fender. So if I go any lower, it's going to knock the skirt off. And for the rear, I had to leave it at this height because it was rubbing. Like look at all this. All this is from rubbing down the street over a bunch of test drives because I had to raise it little by little by little. And this is the point where it would finally stop rubbing. And yeah, this is not where I would like to have the car at its ride height. But I'm gonna have to change these wheels out for different ones where the lip is more inward, and I can't run a smaller tire. I think I mentioned this already because this is already too much of a stretch tire where I wouldn't feel comfortable driving on the street or freeway. Not only is this gap really nasty to look at, underneath the skirt, like there's such a big gap, well for me at least, where I'm not happy looking at it, but not until I change these wheels out for different ones. Overall, I'm still very happy with the install. I think everybody should get cups no matter what ride height they're at. It just saves your aero. It saves you from getting stuck on driveways and having to get a bunch of dudes come out and push your car down because one wheel is spinning in the air while the other one's trying its best to gain traction. But that's going to be it for this video. If you guys want to know how to install this kit like from start to finish, I think I mentioned it before, I have a video on it. I'll put it in the description, that way you guys can check it out. It's a little lengthy, but it's very helpful. If not, just going over the instructions will help. But thank you guys for watching till the end, and I'll see you guys in the next one.